When my wife moved out, she took all the mirrors in the house. I didn't notice at first, but it's true. She took them all, her dressing mirror from the bedroom, the one hung in the hallway. She even took the one that we bought years ago to hang in the guest room that we never put up, which made sense as there was already one in there. When all was said and done, there must have been one in every room, and she took them all. It wasn't a big deal. She wanted them all and I didn't. She saw them more as decorative items whilst I saw them as plainly functional. She did leave one, though you could barely call it a mirror, the tiny little swivel one on the windowsill in the ensuite. Always smudgy, steamy or smearing. No matter how much you cleaned it, you'd barely be able to catch yourself in its reflection. Twice a day, when I got up for work and when I got ready for bed, I'd briefly see myself in that tiny little thing, held there for only a second. It made things easier at first. A man's not fond of his own reflection when his wife just upped and disappeared to be with another man. I would try to avoid eye contact with myself as I brushed my teeth. I'd stopped caring about my self-image, so I'd stopped shaving, never having to look in the mirror for more than a cursory glance. Over time, I started to realize that these fleeting glimpses I got of myself in those isolated moments were the only times I got to perceive myself as I appear to the outside world. One day, after brushing my teeth in the morning, I passed by the mirror, and something stopped me dead in my tracks. In the reflection of the room was a black mist rolling in through the small gap under the bathroom door. I turned around and looked at the door in the real world, outside of the reflection, and saw that there was no mist. This didn't come as a relief to me somehow, as at that point I knew something was very wrong. Even weirder than random black mist is black mist you can only see in a mirror. I blinked a couple of times and tried to wipe the mirror as my brain groggily tried to catch up with what was happening before my eyes. The mist was filling up the reflection now, so much so that I could barely see myself. Once I was certain there was definitely no black mist outside of the mirror, I gingerly grabbed the handle of the door. I had this foreboding sense that nothing good could be on the other side, even though I could see clear as day that there was sunlight pouring in through the crack. And yet, your bathroom mirror didn't just show a room randomly filling up with mist for no reason. No sooner had I yanked open the door had the world been plunged into darkness. Or to be more precise, just the bedroom on the other side of the door. Whilst in the bathroom the light of day still shone, in the bedroom it was like night had fallen, no light, just the black mist, like in the mirror, rolling over the floor and leaving a cold chill in the air. The curtains were open, but nothing could be seen through the thick blackness that appeared to be outside. Just as it had in the reflection prior, the mist started to cross the threshold and enter the bathroom, sucking the daylight out of that room too. However, it seemed to encounter a barrier it could not cross, like a circle had been drawn out on the floor that the mist could not pass, where the sunlight from the natural world persisted. And then I noticed it. An impenetrable barrier had formed around the mirror, which was reflecting beams of natural light in from the outside. I snatched up the mirror and started angling it around the room, clearing up the mist until it looked mostly normal again. I started doing the same in my bedroom, and to my relief it worked. It was like the mirror somehow had the ability to vanquish this mist. I hurriedly finished getting dressed for work and cautiously made my way downstairs trying to clear a path. I tested the waters on the way by intentionally not clearing the mist from where I was walking and walking straight through it. It didn't seem to have any effect. As I grabbed my keys from the stand by the front door, my eyes swept around my living room and caught a person standing in the mist, shadowed in the corner. They looked mostly ordinary except for the fact they were unusually pale and had solid black eyes with no distinguishable irises. They stood motionless and made no attempt to move for me, even as I stifled a yell and fumbled with my keys in the front door. I hurriedly opened it, hauled myself out and slammed the door behind me. Outside, the world seemed completely normal. A sunny day with a light breeze. People walking down the street, getting on with their day with no idea what was happening inside my house. After I caught my breath, I gingerly opened my front door to peek inside before I left. I was sure I'd see that person just standing there again, pitch black eyes peering into me even though I couldn't possibly know where they were looking with no irises to focus on me with. And yet, when the door creaked open, the whole place was like normal again. No mist, no complete blackness, no person lurking in the corner. As I watched the dust delicately dance in the sunbeam peeking in through a crack in the blinds, I just shook my head in disbelief. I realized that throughout the whole ordeal I had been clinging to the bathroom mirror, so I put it down on the stand by the door and shut it again, wondering if I was going crazy. I made my way straight to my car and drove to work in silence, trying to make sense of my morning. All I could think about all day was what happened at home that morning, the mirror, the darkness, the mist. That person stood there in the corner. Had they always been in my house, unbeknownst to me? I tried to shake it off and went for a bathroom break. As I washed my hands at the sinks, I caught my reflection again in the bathroom mirror. Staring back at me was myself, but with those empty, solid black eyes. I yelped in horror and jumped, yet when I looked back all I saw was my usual self. The person next to me washing their hands gave me a very confused look whilst I just mumbled something along the lines of the water being too hot and awkwardly shuffled out. On the way home that night, I didn't really know what to expect. When I woke up that morning, everything seemed normal. Then there was the mist. I didn't know what was real, but as I opened the door, something was instantly wrong. The first thing I felt was the cold. It would have been hard to tell if the darkness was natural as the sun had already set, but the cold had a bite to it that set the hairs on the back of my neck on end. And there was the mist, thickly rolling along the floor and covering it so it was hard to see my own feet. One thing jumped out at me, though: the mirror was missing. As I crouched down to look for it, I found it broken right in front of the stand on which I placed it. As if it had fallen. Or been pushed. As soon as that horrifying thought had crossed my mind, the mist started to coalesce, a couple feet in front of me, into a shape. The shape of a human. Not the same one as before, but another pale being with pitch black eyes. I started to move towards my right, not really sure what I was hoping to achieve but just looking to put some distance between me and them. "I don't really know why you're here, or what you want," I said out loud, not aiming for an open dialogue but just hoping to distract them as I got further away. "I'm not really pleased that you're doing this in my house, but if there's anything I can offer to you, to help you or get you to leave." I trailed off as two more beings rose from the mist. They were getting closer. At that moment, my breath quickened and my mind started rushing through all the things that people say you see when you're about to die. You don't really believe them when you hear it, but it's true. I saw my childhood. Days in the sun with my friends that I'd never get back. I saw my parents, who I was there for until the very end. And my wife. Oh God, my wife. Now they were only a foot away. I tried to act like losing her didn't affect me when around others, but the truth is that I thought of very little else when I was on my own. How it broke my confidence, my image of myself and the last of my love. My life without her was just getting up, going to work and coming home alone. All the joy was lost. And I hadn't even heard a thing since the day she left, just to know if she was doing alright. Maybe that's why these creatures were praying to me. All the darkness on the inside leaking out, making me an easy target. Giving them a place where they could thrive. They were inches away now. And then they touched me. And I became one with the mist. In that instant, I died. My organs dissolved from within, and my skin turned white as a sheet as I was eviscerated. The color drained from my eyes and the mist filled them, turning them black. In my brain's last living moments, my synapses' last sparks, it was like a fire lit within, filling my mind with the knowledge of the mist. "A parting gift," they whispered softly inside my head. My wife had worked it all out ages ago. She'd seen it happen the same way I had, seeing how mirrors had an effect on this terrifying force within our house. She couldn't have known this at the time, but mirrors are a weakness of the mist, getting absorbed by them and trapped within. That's how I managed to clear the room earlier and why I could only see the mist in the mirror at first. It was trapped there. Still, she must have felt so alone working this out but not wanting to tell me, thinking I wouldn't believe her or that she was crazy. But that was the reason why she had so many mirrors all over the place. She was trying to keep us safe and look after our home. They got her regardless. The mist whispered to her quietly when she was in areas of the house even the mirrors didn't fully protect. She was compelled by them to get rid of all the mirrors and tell me she was leaving, and then sacrifice herself to them. That's why I hadn't heard from her. She'd been one of them the whole time she was gone. Turns out I had been tagged to join them when I had walked through the mist earlier on my way down to the door. In that moment, I had sealed my fate to be taken. That's why I saw myself with black eyes at work earlier. As my entire presence was becoming one with the conglomerate, her form rose up amongst them. A single tear ran down my cold face, the last one I'd ever shed. The rest of them were totally emotionless, merely puppets of the mist. Previous occupants of this house, as it happened. But she was smiling. And though she was just as pale and empty as the rest of the mist puppets, her eyes still twinkled. Black as the night, but bright and blinding all the same. She was different. They took her to lead them. This new knowledge was of no comfort to me, as I knew my mind was moments from burning up. My brain was, in that instant, being torn to shreds as the very last drops of my own life departed from my empty shell. For that's what the mist does. It takes you, empties you out and throws you away, all while keeping your empty form to do its bidding. That's what we do. We are the mist. We are coming.